Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Brown. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Second Chance. Today, my guest will be Ms. Jane Taylor of the Shelter for Battered Women, who will be providing us with information that will help someone with a second chance at life. So sit back, grab your pencil and paper, and enjoy the show. And we'll be back after this break. Thank you. That's it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Brown again, and I'd like to welcome Ms. Jane Taylor from the Shelter for Battered Women. How you doing, Ms. Taylor?
Good, thank you.
Tell the audience about yourself.
About myself?
And about the Shelter for Battered Women.
Okay. United Family Services is a family services agency that's been in Charlotte. This is our 100th year this year.
Okay.
And we opened the Shelter for Battered Women 30 years ago this year. And I've been involved in that movement and in the shelter ever since it opened in various jobs.
Okay. Why is domestic violence such a big issue in our society today?
Domestic violence is not a new issue in our society. You know, as far back as we have the written history,
correct,
we have found history of domestic violence in intimate partner relationship. And that's followed us through the generations. I think that now it's, you know, we've been doing this work for about 30, 35 years, and I'm talking about the work to empower women and children that are living in abusive homes. And I think that the opportunity, and we're hearing more about it now. Women are coming forward and asking for help, and a lot of services have been developed. So I think that it's an issue that's been in our society forever. We're hearing a lot more about it. It's in the news. It's certainly much more out there to people, so they're seeing it more and they're hearing about it. You know, as long as we could have imbalance of power in society and imbalance of power in relationships,
okay,
we're going to have issues of domestic violence because it's a issue of power and control.
All right. What are some of the warning signs that you may see an individual go through as far as being in a possible domestic violence relationship?
Okay. As far as someone looking in, or a friend or family member, certainly if your family member is, their personality has changed, they become withdrawn. If they're becoming isolated, they're not outgoing as they used to be. They're being confined more to home. You know, the very obvious would be injuries or bruising or injuries that don't make sense, that the explanation to doesn't fit up with what you're seeing. You know, if someone is, and then certainly I would suggest to ask questions, to be forward and to ask about someone's well-being. For the person that's in a relationship, if you feel that you're losing control, if you feel that you're losing your freedoms, your freedom to do as you want to do, your freedom to be with who you want to be, to come and go as you want to, that your every move is being monitored. So I think that, you know, your self-esteem, your values, your freedom that you're losing, I think that's one of the biggest signs that there's something wrong in this relationship.
What are some of the reasons females may give you as far as not wanting to leave that relationship? I mean, is it love or? You know,
well, I think one myth that is out there is that women and children don't leave. Women and children leave at huge numbers. Most of the shelters in our state and without, I mean, with all the states, most of the shelters are not adequate to take care of all of the women and children that are calling to come to them. So the idea that they don't leave is not a true fact. They leave in mass numbers. What happens when they leave is that there are huge obstacles out there that prevent them from making that leaving successful. Certainly love, of course. Women very typically don't take relationships lightly, especially if it's a marriage.
Correct.
You know, she may say to us, I don't want to leave this marriage or this relationship. I want you to make him quit being abusive. Make him stop what he's doing. I don't want to necessarily leave the relationship. But once she does, we have an economic situation now. You know, economic stability is the key here. If she can become financially independent and take care of her and her children, I'd be out of a job. I truly believe that. So once she leaves, she's got the economic issue to deal with. She's got employment to deal with, child care, housing, all of those financial things that are very difficult and becoming more and more difficult every day. She has very traditional belief systems a lot of times to get past. And those belief systems say that once you're married, you're married for life, you make good of it. So there are a lot of very valid reasons, and safety. Safety is the biggest one. You know, as we read the newspapers, and we see in the newspapers that the most dangerous time in an abusive relationship is when the victim decides to leave or she has left. This is when we see situations become lethal. We see it every day in the paper.
Correct.
The ex-husband, the ex-wife, the separated couple, marriage. So her fear of being hurt is a very real fear. And sometimes it feels safer being in and not leaving than it does to leave, because one thing that we have to realize, that leaving doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the end of the abuse.
Correct.
There are a lot of women that are stalked. There are a lot of women that are continued to be abused once they've left. So that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the end of everything. So many women leave and do make a success out of it. Okay. We've seen a lot that come through our doors in the past 30 years that have been very successful. But there are a lot of obstacles that are in the way to becoming self-sufficient. And I think that one of our jobs and the job of our community and society is to help eliminate those obstacles that are in the way. And once those obstacles are eliminated, there'll be no reason to stay. Then it'll be fairly reasonable to say, correct, why don't you get out? Yeah. But until we eliminate those obstacles, it's a tough call.
The Shelter for Battered Women. Basically, how does someone go about getting into your program? You know, the young lady who wants to really get involved into your program but don't know how. How would she, what's the first steps?
Well, we are a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 24/7 program. We have a crisis line. We have the only 24-hour crisis line in Mecklenburg County that's devoted to domestic violence. Most of our referrals come through the telephone. All she needs to do is pick up the telephone and ask to speak to one of the workers. We will do a very brief intake, find out the situation, and then make an assessment whether or not she's appropriate for residential shelter, or if she wants to just participate in the support services that we have. The police make referrals to us. Any member of community can give our number out and refer someone. So, but we do need to speak with the individual for a few minutes, so mostly over the telephone. We're in a confidential location, so people don't typically walk up to our door. We have to know they're coming, and a lot of times the police bring them to us.
Okay, so the individual would have to go through the local authority or someone as far as to be able to...
They would have to contact us. They don't have to go through anyone else. They can go through the police, and the police will help them do that. But they will need to contact us initially so we can do a very brief assessment.
How important is confidentiality in your program for that young lady?
Well, it's extremely important, and we hold it very, very high. We are in a location that we don't give out publicly. We screen all of our callers. We only give it out on an as-need-to-know basis. We know who's coming to us. We have security around our building 24 hours a day. We also have county security that's on our grounds. So we are very, very particular about safety. And we are very, very particular about our clients' confidentiality. None of the information that's given to us leaves our program unless it's ordered by a judge. So, you know, any sort of information that someone gives us, whether or not they're participating, they can feel very much assured that we hold it in confidentiality.
Well, someone coming into your program, how long is your program for that individual? How long will they be able to stay at your location?
All of our services are available to the women and children in our community, even if she doesn't stay with us. So that's one point I want to make, that a woman can participate in our support services if she doesn't need to stay with us as on a residential basis. We're an emergency short-term shelter, so initially our stay is 30 days. We don't have but 29 beds available for our community. So if we can't turn those beds over, if we can't help women coming and going like that, then we can't provide services for the women that are calling us. So 29 beds is very under what we need for this community. It's 5 beds more that we've added in 30 years, so that just kind of gives you a sense of you know, what we've, you know, our ability to shelter people now.
29 beds. I mean, for such a big, large population, what is there funding, or I mean, why doesn't the community get more involved into your program? I mean,
well, we've got very good community involvement over the years. We have a lot of community partners that we work with. A little over 2 years ago, we did a study with the county to find out what was a feasible number to work towards in terms of what's needed in this community. And the study that we did came up with 125 beds is what we need compared to other communities of this size. So we have started a capital campaign this year. We've just pretty much kicked that off. And of course, not realizing the economy would do what it did for the plans, but we're going ahead with those plans, and we're in kind of the silent phase of that campaign right now. And initially, we're planning on building an 80-bed facility.
Oh, okay.
So that will get us a little closer to the needs of this community.
I know that's a very important thing, shelter for battered women. Self-esteem.
Yep.
How big is that for that young lady who's coming into your program?
Well, what happens over time when someone has their control of their life and all the aspects of that taken away from them, what happens over time is that their self-esteem's knocked out of them. You know, women are not abused because they have lack of esteem. This is something that is created because of the abuse, their loss of self-esteem. So that's certainly one of the things that we work towards, that sense of empowerment and re-empowerment. And what's important for us is to give her back control over her life and control over her choices, and allowing her to make decisions over her life. That's